history of the U.S. Kind of. Hey, Mr. Banana, let's be super quick about this. This is the U.S. It's a wonderful, gorgeous land where the dreams come true. All the good things are located there. Once upon a time, people in Europe, in Spain to be specific, decided to found a colony in North America. But they failed. Many Spaniards died of disease and the survivors abandoned the colony. Bummer. But there was this man who could make it happen. Pedro Menendez de Aviles. He built and founded the first permanent European settlement in what is now the USA. Well done, man. Later, however, English people tried to colonize America, but they were lost on the voyage home. Losers! This is our land. Next year, they finally did it, and Queen Elizabeth allowed them to call the place Virginia after her. Yay! More settlers arrived, and more. The more people, the less food. Simple math. Plus, the natives got really angry and were ready to kill anyone who dared to chop a tree. The Queen of England wanted another colony, so people called separatists were strongly critical of the Church of England and they did not wish to belong to it. They were all packed and sent to help the new colony grow. Most of them died during the voyage. Sad. Those who survived were taught by Native Americans how to grow crops. Thank you. Furthermore, English colonists spread over the coast of North America. By the way, did I tell you that Europeans introduced many diseases in which the natives had little or no resistance? As a result, many natives died and their number declined sharply. Couldn't they just bring wine like civilized people do? The colonists versus the natives conflict began. Eventually, all the Indian wars were won by the whites because of their superior technology. Everything was good and calm. But from the end of the 17th century, many African slaves were transported to work on the plantations. In the early 18th century, the African slave population in North America increased rapidly. Many black people were brought to North America on very smelly ships. The locals gave them food, chains, and the ability to work. Yep, that was their understanding of the help. Slavery flourished for many years. Britain wanted full control over its colonies, and it was kind of logical. The British felt that the colonies existed for the benefit of the mother country. The locals didn't feel like sharing their toys with the other kids in the playground. In the early 18th century, the population of the colonies was about 300,000 and over 1 million by the end of it. The land was cheap in North America, and it attracted many people hoping for a better life. That's why Britain quite demanded that all the locals should stay at the same place and not explore the land any further. You can't tell us what to do. The colonists objected to being told by the British government, "We want freedom." At first sight, the British had many advantages. They greatly outnumbered the Americans and had much greater resources. However, they were handicapped by long lines of communication. In those days, it took a sailing ship 6 to 8 weeks to cross the Atlantic. The British were forced to surrender. And it worked. Meanwhile, Lewis and Clark set out to explore more land to continue the expansion of the new states. In 1805, they reached the Pacific. Yay! We've got a big, huge chunk of land! Let's celebrate! The American economy also grew rapidly. It was all about cotton. Coal mining and manufacturing industry boomed as well. The U.S. continued to grow rapidly, and by 1860, its population was 31 million. Whoa! However, North and South were quite different economically and culturally. So, Abraham Lincoln was elected the president. The southern states didn't want the president who would make them forget about free black labor. He firmly opposed the expansion of slavery into territories of the USA. I said no! Fighting began in 1861 and ended in 1865. The American Civil War, guys. Slaves would be made free in any state still in rebellion on 1 January 1863. And smart people also wrote the 13th Amendment, which banned slavery. Yay! So now is the time to rebuild everything that was destroyed and ruined and make the country shine bright like a diamond. In the late 19th century, the USA was the fastest growing industrial nation in the world. Work, work, work. Railroad network also grew rapidly. Yeah, there were a lot of trains on the rails. Everything was really good. No, wait, it was better than good. It was super duper great. By 1910, the USA had overtaken Britain as the richest and most powerful nation in the world. By then, the population of the USA had reached 92 million. Also in the early 20th century, the USA built the Panama Canal. Why? No one knows. Or maybe because President Theodore Roosevelt decided to do it. Period. There was some time when nothing happened, but then, war. Again? No! The First World War. Why do we care? Right, let's stay neutral. Something was happening in Europe and Russia, but then Germany finally pissed the US, and in 1917 they declared war on Germany. Boom. Sherman troops were pushed back until Germany surrendered on 11 November 1918. Meanwhile, women gained the right to vote. You go, girls! Many black people moved from the south to the north, especially to the big cities. They demanded to improve conditions for black people, and they did. Then everything became messed up again. The American economy began to falter. Many people bought stocks with borrowed money. As a result, the stock market became inflated. prices rose to a very high level, then they fell catastrophically. Man, what is going on? When people lost their jobs, they could no longer buy goods, and demand fell, so more people lost their jobs. The Depression. However, there was a good guy, President Hoover. He increased spending on roads, bridges, and public buildings. It didn't help. Go away, jackass. Franklin Delano Roosevelt was elected president. Roosevelt assured the American people that the only thing they had to fear was fear itself. Mass unemployment ended. The Second World War began. Trick or treat. In 1940, Germany conquered Denmark, Norway, Holland, Belgium, and France. The Japanese attacked the American Pacific Fleet at Pearl Harbor. Not cool, guys. Not cool. Congress declared war on Japan. Germany and Italy declared war on the USA. Some kind of a vicious circle. The country was working on a very huge, dangerous bomb. The atomic bomb. An American B-29 bomber dropped the world's first deployed atomic bomb over the Japanese city of Hiroshima. The explosion wiped out 90% of the city and immediately killed 80,000 people. Tens of thousands more would later die of radiation exposure. 3 days later, a second B-29 dropped another A-bomb on Nagasaki, killing an estimated 40,000 people. OMG, 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 OMG! The American public suffered less than people in other countries because the USA escaped occupation or air raids. Unfortunately, Roosevelt did not live to see the end of the war. He died on 12 April 1945. This sucks. After the war, many Americans started thinking about their civil rights. African Americans had great success with nonviolent campaigning. In December 1955, a woman called Rosa Parks sat at the front of a bus and refused to move. She was arrested. Black people then organized a boycott of the buses. Finally, segregation on buses was ruled unconstitutional. One of the leaders of the boycotts was to become famous. He was the Baptist minister Martin Luther King. Well played! Then the Kennedy era began in the country. He strengthened the American Armed Forces. He committed to landing a man on the moon by the end of the decade. Kennedy also created the Peace Corps. Nice man. Was shot. Sad. But the Americans wanted to take all necessary measures to repel any armed attack against the forces of the United States and to prevent further aggression in Southeast Asia. Vietnam in particular. Great. Another war? The Vietnam War became increasingly unpopular at home. From 1965 onward, anti-war demonstrations were held. President Nixon slowly withdrew U.S. troops from South Vietnam. The last U.S. troops left in 1973. From this time to the present day, the U.S. is becoming the fastest, coolest, biggest, richest countries in the world. Well, in fact, the biggest country is technically Russia, but they don't seem to care about that. We have Bruce Willis, Hollywood, Taylor Swift, Obama, and the Statue of Liberty, and we don't care. Today, the USA is still the most powerful country in the world. Yay, the U.S.! Do you want to learn a brief history of your country? Write your country name in the comments, and it might feature in our next video.